will no longer be a community contributor.
What a week, hey? This has to be one of the most dense weeks of wargaming screwing up ever. I think this week may have contained more wargaming mistakes than the entire first year of the game. I'm not sure, but I'm just guessing. This is pretty insane. So, the biggest thing, though, of course, is all of these CCs leaving the CC program. And I wanted to make a video talking about my thoughts on this, and there's a few reasons for that, but we'll get into those later. So for those of you who don't know what happened, Little White Mouse, of course, a very well-known CC, probably the best CC wargaming had out of anyone. She made reviews of ships on the forums, and incredibly detailed, and just the most knowledgeable, in-depth reviews you've ever seen. And honestly, I reference them all the time when I needed to know about the stats and the differences between a ship compared to its same counterparts at its tier, that kind of thing. There was just so much information. It was such a great place to go because you just go to her forum posts and you just search up the ship you want to know about, and all the information was there. It was a great, easy to read, easily digestible, great graphs, visual way of understanding what a ship is like. So what happened was wargaming trampled on her one too many times. I am honestly shocked that it took her this long to leave the program. I thought after the Yukon disaster, and even before that, they were just not playing right by her at all. But I thought she would have left way sooner, but now finally she's done it, and honestly, I think that is probably the best thing she could have done, because there's no way this is good for your mental health or anything like that, because this is a passion for someone like Little White Mouse especially, and I'll talk a little bit about that later, but just think about how a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer is able to make money through ads. Well, someone who's posting on the forums isn't making money that way. She does have a Patreon, but yeah, I don't think that's quite as much as some of these ad revenue things are like on Twitch and on YouTube. So wargaming just don't respect their content creators. They don't respect the community at all. It's very obvious at this point. But after the Yukon disaster, as usual, blaming it on communication and then promising to do better. But of course, promises are pretty empty after a certain point of you constantly breaking them. So as we're all told in the little kids cartoons and fairy tales, actions speak louder than words. You need to do something when you've messed up. You can't just say, I'm sorry. You need to follow it up with some action to prove that you actually are wanting to change. So for Little White Mouse, the action she was looking for from wargaming was adding a camo that she and Shibitsu worked on for this Yukon project, or I think it was for the Yukon, but one of the projects they were working on a camo, and wargaming didn't add it to the game, and now she was looking for them to add it to the game, not to demand like, oh, I need this camo because she wants a camo in the game. No, she's looking for a way for wargaming to show that they're committed to actually respecting the work she puts in and the content she's making. And of course, wargaming said, no way, we're not doing that. So again, their words are quite empty at this point. There's no action behind them at all. So that's why she is now left. I will link her forum post, or might be easier to link the Reddit below, but I'm sure you guys have all seen it already. If you haven't at this point, it's all over Reddit. So the amount of time and effort she puts into things is just not being respected, and it's a good thing that she decided to leave for herself. This is a really massive blow, though, for the community and for Wargaming. This is easily their best content creator for the entire game that has decided to be done. And that is a huge blow, and because of that, a lot of the other community contributors have shown their support by leaving as well, which is a really awesome way of demonstrating their support. Actions. Actions speak louder than words. They're actually willing to put into action that they support Little White Mouse, something that Wargaming is incapable of doing. So this is a really good thing to see. I'm sure you have seen the list, but as of researching and scripting this video, iChase, Flambast, Jingles, Mr. G, Yuzrel, Chaos Machine, Clyde the Monkey, there's a whole bunch of them that have decided to leave the CC program, and that is huge. And for them to do that, that is a really cool way of showing the support, and not the easiest thing to do. Of course, you can just say that the CC program doesn't really mean anything anymore, but in fact, it did still have some value. It wasn't just about getting early access to ships and putting out early videos. There were other ways that the CC program was very valuable to someone who makes content. And I'm saying that as someone who was never allowed in, who wanted in at one point in time. I was looking to really get into it because it does help your content grow quite a lot. But unfortunately, Wargaming did remove the ability to make videos on ships before they're released. And personally, I'm counting early access as released because anyone in the game with a credit card can get access to these ships. So that is technically released, and probably the worst way of releasing it too, where there's no reviews on these things, and people who are just going to buy them regardless, or people who are excited but don't know what the ship's about, they might be more inclined to gamble for them in all these loot boxes. It's really sad how Wargaming has essentially locked everything premium in the game behind a loot box now, where back in the day, and even a couple years ago, it was more along the lines of you knew the final price of an in-game item and you could decide if that price was worth spending or not. And there was a lot more items you could actually earn for yourself. There's less of this just spend money and gamble for it and you hope you get it, which is really, really sad to see the direction they've gone, especially for a game that I believe in Europe with the PEGI rating system, this is rated for ages 7 and up, even though there's literally gambling in this game. And then there's the whole problem of some of these weeb integrations where there's some characters who look like children who are basically dressed in no clothing visible in a game like this. That is maybe not for ages 7 and up, and I would argue not for anyone. I think children should not be dressed like that, even if it's a cartoon. That's just too far down and too far close to basically pedophile cartoons. So I have some pretty strong opinions on that, but I do believe that. I think that should not be in the game, along with the gambling. I think that is just horrible, horrible, horrible practices. But anyways, on to the CC program value. I'm getting a little off topic here. I do want to say that the CC program does have some value still, and just to show that the community contributors, especially some of the smaller ones, are actually giving stuff up. They're actually sacrificing to be supportive of Little White Mouse and the other content creators who are leaving. I think the CC program has, at least in the past, provided some value based on Wargaming signing off on your content. I know this is not for everyone, and people are saying nowadays that if you're a CC, I won't watch you, but it has been in the past where some people, understandably so, their logic goes, well, if you're not a CC, well, there must be something wrong with the content you're doing, otherwise Wargaming would have you as a CC, right? So therefore they will just watch these CCs and that is it. So it used to provide that value. I will, after this week, probably not at all. It's probably flipped to be the opposite, which I don't think should necessarily be the case either, but we'll get into some of the harassment of people who are currently staying as a CC later, but it did provide some of that value. So the other thing the CC program does is it does still give you early access to these ships, even if you can't make videos until a certain point. This still helps you grow and build your channel, even if it's not as much as before, because releasing a video on the day that that content gets released into the game, people are going to be looking for it on YouTube. And, well, it's hard to make a video when something gets released that day and you only get access to it that day, right? So it does help a little bit for sure. Not as much as before, you know, being able to make the videos even before things released to the public, but it is still something. And the reason I say this is I've personally noticed this one time when I was the first person-ish to making a video about something coming into the game, and that was the super battleships. The PTS videos that I did there, I think were one of the first ones on YouTube about that, and that was something people were interested in. It was, well, we don't really know what they're going to be like. And so those videos were easily some of the fastest growing videos that I've ever put out. So there's a huge advantage to someone who wants to make content on a game to have early access and to be able to put out a video at the same time as everyone else or be first to something. It's given me a little bit of perspective on why sometimes the news and journalism stuff is all so quickly done and not maybe the best researched. There's just so much incentive to be first, and you make money on this a lot of the time. That's the thing, is you get greedy and you want more and more and more money. Well, you release something sooner and sooner and sooner. So that's kind of, I don't want to get into the whole news cycle, right? This is definitely not politics, but I can understand why some of the news is not so accurate these days because of that. Now, the other thing the CC program does is it gives you extra community drops and giveaways. I don't think this is the main reason people watch streamers for the drops that it gives. I know the CC crates can be pretty decent, but I think the majority of the time people are watching for other reasons. But it is a nice bonus. And of course, when you do hit a large milestone, something like 10,000 followers, subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, like Flamu and Euro and a couple other creators actually have on YouTube, which is so awesome, they'll give ships that you can give away, a giant giveaway. I'm sure you saw Flamu's huge 100K celebration giveaway, which was so cool. And personally, more recently, I've seen my friend Maltese Knight get to 10,000 Twitch followers and have a huge giveaway because of that. And that's so cool. That brings new people into your community. That, you know, helps the people that have been there for a while. You know, it gives you an opportunity to give back and show that you really appreciate that support. And for Wargaming to help you do that is really cool and means they are trying to work with you. But maybe that is just an empty help now that we know what's going on behind the scenes a little bit better. But since I'm not a CC, I didn't get those, right? My Twitch has over 10,000 followers as well. Thank you very much, guys. And the YouTube is, I think, over 23,000 at this point. That's insane. It's barely been a year of YouTube and that. Seriously, thank you guys. But I'm not here to complain about that. I'm just saying there are benefits to being in the CC program. And that would be some of it, right? So for the creators that are leaving, big and small, it is a sacrifice. That is the point I'm trying to get across here. And so it is a bigger deal than maybe you think if you thought the CC program wasn't all that valuable anymore. It is still something. So to those who left, all I can say is well done, and I support you. Truly, well done. Thank you for showing your support for the community and not just bending over and letting Wargaming do whatever they want to, because that's just easier, right? You get bonuses, you get all these little perks here and there, and you don't have to deal with the consequences of not being a CC, right? We don't know how Wargaming's going to react to this, but it could get as bad as Wargaming doing some false DMCA claims. We don't know how far Wargaming is willing to go with these kind of things. So there could be some takedowns, not legally, right? You're not really allowed to write DMCA takedowns like that if you are using fair use and all that kind of stuff, which I would argue that commentary over something is. But, I mean, the laws and that are pretty new, and internet law is pretty hard to understand properly and get out of malicious and fraudulent takedowns like that. It's very, very difficult. That's why, for example, I just full stopped putting music on my live streams, because I just don't want to have the possibility of worrying about that. But you can see companies like Nintendo, you know, writing DMCA takedowns for people who want to stream or watch their games and putting them up on YouTube. There's huge backlash over that, but Nintendo hasn't really backed down all that much. So it'd be a little scary if Wargaming starts to do that, if they don't like the way the entire community of creators is going. So I don't want to put that idea in Wargaming's mind so they do that. I'm just wanting to say that maybe this is a potential that they could go to. We don't know what lengths they are willing to go to, because clearly they're willing to do some pretty bad stuff. So a little bit scary, that kind of thing. Now on to the whole community witch hunt and uproar and pitchforks and all that stuff. I think this is pretty scary stuff when people on the internet get really, really passionate about something like this. And there's a lot of anger and frustration, and a lot of that ends up as harassment and harassing the wrong people. The people that you're maybe even trying to support sometimes are the people getting harassed by this angry mob. So seriously, guys, anyone harassing current CCs and other content creators, anybody making content about this game, you're a really large part of the problem with online communities, and maybe the way Wargaming sees the community as just a net negative or something that they don't want to really interact with all that much, because that is truly, truly horrible. Personally, I think that also somewhat extends to community managers. They're really just kind of caught in the crossfire of Wargaming making bad decisions and then putting them out on the front lines and saying, all right, now go handle that for us. Community managers, I think, would be a very, very, very tough job to do. So maybe cut them a little bit of slack. They do still work for Wargaming. They still get paid by Wargaming, but maybe they're in a situation where they have to keep that job because of the way the current job climate is due to COVID and other things. So there are probably some other reasons, and it's not the community managers making these decisions. You gotta remember that. It's the higher ups. It's someone that you have no access to. You have no way of communicating with them at all. And that's the person who is making these decisions. So I know that doesn't sound all that great to just be like, well, who do we talk to? What do we say? But remember, there are people around this too. And I think we need to direct the frustration in a constructive way towards the people who are really, really responsible. I think that just the amount of turnover in the community manager position really does show you how hard that job is, right? There are so many new faces all the time in the community manager role, and it just keeps going and going and going. It's either they get tired of all the backlash they have to deal with, or they're just set as a scapegoat and fired, right? It is a rough job, I think. So keep that in mind when you are so angry and wanting to lash out at something. Maybe take a step back and think, is this person really responsible? But as a side note, maybe it's not even the developers, right? Because you gotta remember, everybody has a boss. And maybe the people making the decisions in Wargaming are not the developers, like the game devs working on game mechanics. What if it's the financial department? Everything runs through the financial side, and it's all designed to make as much money as possible. So the developers might even know what's good for the game to make a good and fun game. Obviously, they did a pretty good job 6 years ago when the game came out, because, I mean, I've been playing all that time. It started off as a really fun game. Maybe they do know what they're doing, but they're just not capable of doing it because everything has to run through the financial side, and that's the side making decisions at this point. I'm not saying that's the case, but it is either with the developers or the managers of this game with regards to money or the gameplay. So that's who we need to at least try and get a constructive message to. I'm not sure if that's possible, but it would be really, really nice if we were able to do that as a community. But in conclusion, if a little TLDR, just don't harass or spread hate to anyone creating content for the game. Seriously.
Okay, I just want to make a quick point about that. And that is this. One thing about wargaming, they do their banking through Cyprus. And if you know a little bit about the history of Russia and Cyprus, you'd know that the criminal element of Russia used Cyprus for their banking. So I'm inclined to believe that the behind-the-scenes operation of wargaming could very well be oligarchs and therefore the real owners and the real motivation factor behind wargaming is a criminal element. And I do have some insider knowledge into the Duma, which is the Russian parliament, the controls set in place and how it's organized, and the oligarchy setup that is in place now. So I just want to make that point very clear. My experiences are somewhat different. I know he mentioned maybe the financial aspect. Yeah, it is the financial aspect because the oligarchs are probably financing this operation. So I just thought I'd just throw that out there. And let's go back to the video.
Don't. Doesn't matter if they're in the CC program, they choose to leave the CC program, or if they choose to stay in the CC program. You don't know their situation. Maybe they do need those extra little bonuses to help them get by, that kind of thing. Also, please don't hate people that have just never been a part of the CC program. I haven't seen much of it, but at least in my comments section, there's a couple where I don't know why you're after me about this whole needing to leave the CC program. I've never been a part of the CC program. Alright, like how am I supposed to leave if I've never been there? Alright, I support these people, obviously, right? You can see my Yukon video and the whole drama surrounding that. I was pretty supportive, I think, of Little White Mouse and Shibitsu there, but I can't do a symbolic leaving because I was never a part of it to begin with, right? So imagine now what somebody who's actually a part of the CC program would be getting from just random people, maybe even people that haven't even watched them before, right? They have no idea who they are, their situation, they just see CC, and they think, shill, no backbone, harassment, 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 harassment. And maybe that CC needs to stay in the CC program for a couple of reasons or others, but really, there's no point in harassing that person. They're not the ones making the decisions to ignore the community and treat Little White Mouse and other community contributors that way. They're potentially even the people getting treated poorly by wargaming, and now you, in an attempt to support the community contributors who are getting treated poorly by wargaming, you're harassing one of the people that is actually getting treated poorly by wargaming. You're harassing someone who's actually a victim of wargaming's horrible treatment, someone you're trying to support. So consider that. I'm not even a CC and I'm getting these, so imagine somebody who actually is a part of the CC program. Now, I'll be honest, I did want to be a part of the CC program in the past. I thought the benefits would be great, and I knew that the feedback wasn't listened to at all. My goal was to get into the CC program so that I would have those early access to ships, and I'd be able to put out the video on that NDA date, right, where you were able to release a video. I think that would help my channel grow, and I won't lie, it is nice to have videos that do well and make a little bit of money off of that. That is really cool. I'm trying to go to school at the moment, and having this help pay for school is a really, really cool thing, because I really enjoy making videos, I enjoy producing content, and for that to help me to go to school and help my future, I think that is such an amazing opportunity, right? So having that to go a little bit better would be cool. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to get into the CC program, because otherwise I have to spend money to buy a lot of these premium ships to make a review on. And yeah, I can justify it by saying, okay, a couple of my other videos will help pay for that, and then this helps my channel grow, and you know, there's a whole business expense end to that, if you want to call this a business, right? But I gotta say, I'm done. I don't think I'm gonna do that anymore. I don't think there's much point in me even buying these ships just to review them and maybe tell you how they are. As nice it is that I can give you my opinion on whether a ship's good or not, I just don't think we as a community, or myself, I guess I'll just speak for myself. I'm not going to talk for people. For myself, it's enough, man. I need to stop spending money, even in little bits like that, to make videos, because Wargaming sees the money coming in and thinks, oh, we're just doing a fine job because people are still spending money. So I am going to not spend any more money on Wargaming in World of Warships, World of Warships Legends. As you know, I've been playing the console game as well. Gonna be done spending money there as well. There's a few sales to get some interesting things there, but no. Until they make big changes, I will stop spending money on Wargaming. That is it. I'm gonna play ships that I enjoy. I'm gonna enjoy the ships that I do have, because at this point I do have quite a lot.
Okay, so another point to be made. I started closing my wallet at least a year ago. I could see this going this way, hoping it wouldn't go this way, but I could see this game going this way. So a year ago at least, I started closing my wallet. Not investing in much more in this game. The odd time I did a little bit, but not too much. And I agree with them totally. Time to just close it permanently and let the voice of the people talk. So we'll see what happens. Let's go back to the video. Any questions, just throw in chat. Any comments, just throw in chat, please. Okay.
A lot of them. And I'm going to make videos on those. And I'm going to try and make constructive, positive, interesting, fun, entertaining content on those ships that I do have. And I gotta be honest, I was really looking forward to this new patch 10.7 with secondaries coming back a little bit. Well, I've already made a couple videos on them, and they're really fun, and I was enjoying that. And I got some very interesting, weird builds I want to test out, and I was thinking, oh, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna have a bunch of positive content to put on my YouTube channel, so it's not just this dreary, this game is horrible right now. CVs suck. They're no fun to fight against. Submarines are coming into the game. They suck. They're boring. It's no fun, right? I don't want to just create content like that. I want to at least have some positive content and some real content, right? And that's where this video is. Sometimes you got to make a real video talking about real issues. Some of you may wonder why I didn't actually get into the CC program, and the honest answer is I was an arrogant jerk, and I didn't deserve to get in. That is how I have been in the past, in this game especially. I had quite the ego, even as short as like 6 months ago. I had a very inflated, large ego, this Super Unicum Battleship tournament winner guy who knows everything better than everyone else and therefore should be listened to and therefore deserves to get into the CC program. I did not go about that in the right way at all, and I regret a lot of the things that I've done already in the short 1 year of doing YouTube and 3 years of doing Twitch. I've definitely made a lot of mistakes, but well, if you want to see one of them, look at the first maybe 3 to 5 minutes of the CVs are a problem video. I think that can pretty clearly tell you what the headspace I was in. I was very egotistical, arrogant, and toxic, not willing to listen to anyone, and not very inclusive at all. So I think that pretty clearly sums up why I didn't get into the CC program. I am working on changing. I am trying to do better. I don't want to be a toxic person. I don't want to be a toxic part of a community. I am trying to do better, but of course, change comes over time, and as we all know very clearly from this situation, words only mean so much. At a certain point, action. And that's what I've been trying to do, is show with action. And I think my last couple months of content has started to show that change, and hopefully will continue. So In the future, I think I will keep playing World of Warships. I still enjoy parts of this game. I won't lie, there are parts that I don't enjoy, and that's why I don't play the game all the time. I think it's healthy to play other games, and you may see some of those other...
Okay, I'd like to add one thing. If I didn't have a clan that I had started, I probably would be quitting this game outright. But I do have a clan, there's other people, and I've got to take them into consideration. There's about 40 guys that is part of the clan. So I'm probably going to be playing for a little while longer. But of course, I'm not going to spend any more on this game because I don't feel it's appreciated and they don't care. And it's been pretty obvious for some time. And I understand, yeah, you got to make money at the game. But the thing is, you have to give back to the community and continually provide value, create a sense of trust and camaraderie. And that's how a game develops and builds. So, from what we're seeing here right now, we are now on the other side of the mountain, and that is the slippery side of the slope, and it's gone downhill. So, I'd like to also include in the forums, I threw a purchase offer to buy the North American and EU assets of the business. I have plenty of experience in mergers and acquisitions. We're a third largest multinational in a different sector of business. But nonetheless, I just threw it out there. And it's interesting to see all the replies because people think, well, you don't have a business sense. Well, you haven't even got a friggin' clue. I'm sure they've never done a cash flow forecast or understood what a balance sheet and assets and how to assess the value of a business, with the understanding that this is an intangible. Even though you've got tangible assets, it is overall an intangible asset, and the valuation is much trickier. But nonetheless, a lot of toxic responses. And, further to that, and based on my other experiences with when Yeltsin was in government, Putin took over. But it wasn't, Yeltsin put Putin in place because Yeltsin was a friggin' alcoholic. And in order to continue with what was going on at that time, he needed a front man, and that's how Putin came into play. And as Putin established his power and built it up, you had the oligarchs, which were an extension of Putin's autocratic reach. And as I pointed out, Wargaming does their banking through Cyprus. Cyprus is a known banking area for money laundering and criminality, and most of it from Russia. I just want to make that point clear. Let's go back to the video.
other games on this channel in the future, but the goal will be...
Oh. Yeah, so here's the point that I wanted to make. If I had a chance to actually make that purchase, in all likelihood, I probably would not, because of the possibility of the criminal element being the backing of this business. So I want to make that point clear. And this is the same criminal element that's been working the Midwest, the United States, for years to manipulate the people, with the understanding that the profile of the people in the Midwest is very similar to a lot of Russian areas, and the Russians have had a great deal of experience in manipulating their own people, and they're doing the exact same thing, same framework, and applying it, and have been applying it for well over 4 years now throughout the Midwest through social media, and people just don't get it. But that's that. That's my experience. That's what I've seen, and it's a bona fide fact, and rather unfortunate. And that's why you have a guy like Donald Trump that was in power, and that's why you have these blind followers. The people that are following him are the very people that are hurt by it, and they don't understand how they've been manipulated. And what are you going to do? That's just the way it is. So back to the video. Any questions, comments, throw in chat, please.
To make good, entertaining, informative, constructive videos that I've been doing, and hopefully you enjoy. So thank you for listening. This is a bit of a long talking video. Unfortunately, not a lot of gameplay or how to use these new secondaries, or maybe some of the healing builds that I've been running that are pretty fun. But we'll get into that next week, don't you worry. If you want to know more, you just want to ask me some questions, I will be live streaming on Twitch when this video goes up. So that'll be tonight. I'll be live streaming for a little bit. We can talk about this whole situation. You can ask me questions, and maybe we'll play some games and have a good time. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.
We are back once again, and this time, this game's going to be a bit more of a discussion on, I don't know, the current state of World of Warships, this particular game in particular, and how it illustrates the current state of World of Warships, and just maybe a little bit of game commentary will be thrown in to fill out some of the space. That being said though, we are featuring the Minotaur, and this was a game I played on my stream, I think not that long ago, I think yesterday or the day before. I stream at twitch.tv/darkgoling pretty much every weekday, sometimes on the weekend, but yeah, you can follow me there if you want to. That being said though, this game is going to be fairly unique in that it is probably one of, if not the most simultaneously easiest games I've ever played, especially on the Minotaur, but also one of the most boring games I've ever played on World of Warships, and you're probably going to about to see pretty soon, because generally we're pushing into A, and at this point this is a position you don't really want to be in on the Minotaur. It's okay for the start of the game, but you don't really want to be bowing against enemy ships, especially at this point in the map. This is more of a thing the Des Moines is good at, or other fairly heavy cruisers. Again, nothing wrong with being in this position at the start of the game, but if you're spotted fairly easily, then you know it's a lot easier for enemy battleships to basically one-shot you. Taking 5k for, you know, a HE from a Hindenburg, which is a horrific ship, and I hate it. That being said though, it seems as though, and for probably the past 6 months to a year, the game has been getting, even at tier 10, a lot more simplistic in the way people play. And this is pretty much perfectly illustrated by this Montana. Again, I'm not trying to, you know, call people out, but I think this type of gameplay perfectly encapsulates what is lacking in the game. Because as you can see, I'm smoked up right here. This Montana has no way of tracking me. And well, sure, he could smoke fire me, but from 13 kilometers away, the likelihood of him hitting with me being semi-bowing is pretty remote. But even so, he still doesn't feel a need to change direction, even while being pummeled by both myself, the Minotaur, and the Des Moines. And I think this speaks to a much bigger problem with the lack of learning over the WoW's player base in general, and just the very kind of gung-ho attitude that's been taken towards the game. It also kind of tracks with a very worrying monetization trend. If you weren't aware recently, the past couple of days I think, there's been an announcement of an affiliate program where you can get people into the game, and you basically, I think you receive money for every purchase they make in-game, which is kind of interesting in itself and kind of points to another trend of monetization that World of Warships is headed in. Beautiful dodge by me on that torpedo though. That being said, you could just say that this game is an outlier and that the game is, you know, completely fine in every way, shape or form, and this Montana will eventually go down. But to me, this game, or this type of game, has never happened to me before. World of Warships. I've never been able to sit right here, bow into an enemy Montana with an enemy Hindenburg on the flank and basically rack up a 66,000 damage within the space of probably 2 minutes of the actual battle happening. That's never happened before. Usually I'm the one getting detonated at the start of the game, so anyways, we'll take it, we'll push in. We are going to be a bit more aggressive. Now, again, the Hindenburg is on that wide flank, so we need to be careful of that. And one thing you don't want to do when you're playing the Minotaur is overextend in a position that you can't actually recover from, either through smoke or through just general maneuverability and positioning. And so you'll notice that I'm going fairly slowly here because I want to keep the island between myself and the enemy cruiser curve first, but at the same time I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm overextended. I'd rather eat a torpedo than a full assault from this cruiser curve first from 10 kilometers, even though, you know, the cruiser curve first might not be the most well-known ship in terms of, you know, actually hitting things. Now, another bit of news has happened recently, and a lot of people have left the CC program. Now, when I first heard this, I had to kind of look up what the CC program actually was because I wasn't actually aware. And then I realized that it wasn't really all that interesting. I think it's just a bunch of players that give their feedback on what's happening in the game, and then maybe a wargaming takes that into consideration when making game design decisions. I've been a part of many other gaming communities, and I'm definitely not foolish enough to assume that a gaming company will actually take the players, even the good ones or even the bad ones, opinion seriously when it comes to actually making fundamental game designs in game. So that whole people leaving the CC program, for me, is just a natural consequence of, you know, suddenly people realizing that no gaming company is going to take players seriously. They have way more stats, they have way more...
Okay, I gotta hold on to make a commentary here. You know, he's alluding to the fact they have way more stats, and they're not going to take a CC's word or allow that to influence their decisions about the game. And this is totally wrong. Absolutely wrong. And I'll tell you why. No matter how much data you have, the framework of how that data is interpreted has a lot to do with arbitrary and subjective assessments. Whereas the CCs, which are community contributors that are actually playing the game, have the insight that you cannot get from data. So it's the difference between theory versus taking that theory and applying it to reality. And the reality is the gameplay and the feedback you get from that experience. And I want to make that clear, and that's very important. And a lot of people look at things one-dimensionally and miss that point. Let's listen more.
In-depth ways of looking at the game that we are never, ever, ever, ever going to be privy to as just simple players of the game. And so, for me, I'm not all that surprised, but again, I don't think it's going to change much long term in the game. I think Wargaming is just going to go, oh, you left? Oh, okay, never mind, nothing's going to change, and things are just going to go on as normal. Now, if one battleship coming straight at you and not changing direction at all wasn't enough to demonstrate how kind of YOLO-y the games are recently, how about two? This Thunder kind of pulled himself into the same position, and as things tend to happen when you're playing a very squishy British PB, you tend to get yourself into positions that you really shouldn't, and you have to pay a pretty significant price for getting yourself into said positions, which is happening with this Thunder. We do end up racking up 112k within... Now, keep in mind, the game starts roughly, the actual game starts at around about 18 minutes in, because you're going to spend 1 or 2 minutes actually getting into position. And so, it's roughly about 6 minutes, 5.5 minutes, getting 112k on a Minotaur, where I basically never have to move. Something's seriously wrong. Usually, you're going to be taking a significant amount of damage, whether one Citadel or two, and yeah, it's not going to be a fun time. That being said, however, we are a little bit late to move off the cap, and we do take a little bit of damage, not a significant amount. At this point, we're just waiting for our smoke to come up so we can actually, reposition ourselves and deal damage again. As well as angling to the Napoli, because, being farmed by a Napoli is never all that fun. And so, natural consequence of this is the first point in the game where we've actually had to be effective, where we actually had to think about what we're doing, where we're positioning, where we're moving, and what we're actually shooting at. Because, frankly, both that Holland and that Napoli is and are the first ships to actually make me question what I'm doing at any point in the game. The Montana, even the Hindenburg to an extent, and even the Thunder were just so basic in their movements that it felt more like a co-op game than it did feel like an actual random battle. And this is ties into the reason why generally I stay away from random battles now. I feel like, at least at gold level in terms of ranked, the games are a lot more enjoyable. They're a lot more, I don't want to sound like a snob, but like a lot more intellectually challenging, shall we say. You're confronted a lot more with interesting game decisions where you actually, your game, how you play and the moves you make and the positions you take actually matter. But that's just my thoughts for, I don't know, the last while. And yeah, I thought this game kind of illustrated.
Welcome back. Good to talk to all of you again today, and I hope this video finds you all doing well. This video is actually coming out a little bit earlier than originally planned, but some things have happened within the last little bit that has pushed this whole situation up to an earlier time. So recently, a significant group of very, very notable CCs, myself, Jingles, Flambass, Little White Mouse, and a number of others whom you will start to see videos and content and streams and stuff with coming out in the next little while. We've gotten really to that enough is freaking enough stage with Wargaming, St. Petersburg. The things they're doing as a company are disgusting and very oftentimes just morally bankrupt. The things they say, the things they do has just pushed us over the edge. And there's a couple of major things. And the first one, and I think this one is kind of going to be obvious to many of you, is the gambling loot boxes. There is so much of these loot boxes now that it almost feels like every single month something new is in a loot box. Even when it's not something that should be in a loot box. Oh, well, you know what? We'll put it in a loot box too.
just think Distant Voyagers containers. Like, really? Just for camo, not even for ships, just camos. Needs to be in a loot box now too. And then the final real thing that kind of broke the camel's back is Missouri. This is a ship that was originally for free experience back in the day, and of course they made her with that huge credit earning bonus, which was the real reason they initially went, oh, that's not good. Players get that one premium ship and they never need to get another one. And that one, of course, remember, they didn't even sell. They made it for free experience. So, they decided that that was not going to be a ship that they wanted people to have easy access to. So they removed her. And then, of course, later on, that ship came back in a box. And so you think, okay, well, maybe one day, when they decide that they want to bring just a ship back for her historical significance, they'll make her just sort of like every other premium ship, a ship that is relatively easy to just go into a store and purchase. Well, now we know, this historically significant ship, the one that a lot of collectors have been waiting for, oh no, that's in a loot box as well. Also, by the way, speaking of containers, don't forget, with the Missouri, they're not even telling us what the odds are, right? It could just be like Johan de Witt again. And even with Johan de Witt, don't forget that for an early access container went from originally like odds, which was like 1 in 40 something. For Johan de Witt, it went up to 1 in 72. They actually increased the number of boxes you have to open for a chance at getting that ship. This is just how much this gambling thing has increased. And remember, this is still a game that, according to the ratings agencies, are perfectly good for children. Just think about that for a second. Anyways, the response regarding Missouri was very, very negative among the CCs. I mean, a lot of feedback was provided. A lot of very passionate feedback was given. And, wow, the responses that, we got back from Wargaming. Wargaming loves to say that we are supposed to be partners in this discussion, but that wasn't a discussion between two partners at all. I can't really go into the details because obviously they decided that that needs to be NDA as well, so I can't really talk about specifically what was said, but the simple way I can explain it in a way that I think all of you can imagine is, imagine having a quote-unquote discussion with supposedly the opposite side that is an equal partner-ish, kind of situation, and you're supposed to talk to each other supposedly with mutual respect, and instead it felt like you were talking to the lawyer on the other team. The answers that were provided were just that type of answer. It was infuriating to see. Oh, did I mention that at the end of it all? Actually, I'm not sure I can say it. But basically, let's just say that the discussion ended with somebody Alt F4ing and just quitting the discussion altogether. That is supposed to be how this partnership is supposed to work, right? Wargaming. Anyways, moving on to the next thing, and that has to do with feedback. Now, that's another one of those things that Wargaming loves to tell us that, hey, we're partners, so please be respectful.
Okay, I want to make another point clear here. He mentioned NDA. NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. And understand any agreement, and even a non-disclosure agreement, if the terms are breached by the writer of the NDA, then the NDA is null and void. But you have to understand where the breach is and have a point in order to exercise that option. But in any corporate agreement where there's been a breach as far as performance and disclosure and representation, will, in the eyes of the courts and law, make that agreement null and void. And this is where a lot of guys do not have that understanding.
We want to engage in respectful discussions. That's a very common thing they love to say, please show us some respect. And, and then let's say you do that. You try to do those things in a civil and as a well thought out manner as possible. You would go to them, you'd present your feedback, and then you would be shut down. You would be told that you don't know what you're talking about. You'd be belittled. You'd be treated like you're just just like a piece of trash from the road somewhere. You just get treated like you're not supposed to say anything, because now that you're offering feedback that like, nah, that's not really what we're looking for. We kind of wanted you to say all the good things about us, and that was very, very, very frustrating. You offer feedback in the feedback channel. It's often met with, no, you're wrong because our data shows X, Y, and Z, or no, you're wrong, we just simply don't agree with you. Or, for me personally, one of the really good ones I kept hearing was, no, you're wrong because you're a Unicum player and therefore you represent a very small percentage of our player base and you cannot possibly understand what the feeling is like for the 40% players that are, the large majority of our game. They would even come back with things like that. Utterly, utterly, utterly infuriating. And it was the one thing that turned me off from giving them feedback through the feedback channels. The other thing, of course, was that the whole CC Discord thing almost got engineered in a certain way. They'd always be able to say, oh, but you could have just come and asked us about X, Y, and Z. Considering the experience so far, like that became kind of the norm, and this wasn't always the case. This was truly not always the case. Wargaming had its screw-ups way back in the day, but at least back in the day, one could say that there felt like there was going to be a discussion that could occur. That you'd have an ability to sort of talk to them, and you'd have an interesting discussion about mechanics or whatever, and there would be this back and forth and be like, oh, okay, I kind of see how they, are thinking. And they would also at times get a sense of how, we were thinking. And that they would start to say, oh yeah, you know what? That actually makes sense from the things that we used to provide them. That's gone now. That's been gone last maybe 2 years. It's just, there's something fundamentally that has shifted starting about what felt like maybe about 3 years ago. As I guess certain people left the company and certain other people climbed their way up, there has just been this collective decline within the company itself in terms of any kind of real, back and forth. Now it's mostly getting talked down at, getting talked down to, being diminished, being sort of made to feel stupid. Yeah. And of course, I guess the most defining bit where it was a real eye-opener was CC Summit 2019. Wargaming had spent quite a lot of money, brought a lot of their CCs together into one big room, and then they pitched these ideas at us. And one of the ideas that was pitched to us was the Naval Training Center. And, for those of you who don't remember, you can always go back, look for the old Naval Training Center Paragon system videos. And, they pitched that system to us and we were like, no, this is awful. This is terrible. What are you guys doing? And this was unanimous, almost negative feedback. And you would figure that after hearing all of that, they'd be like, okay, wow, you know what? All these people are telling it to our face that this is an awful change. Maybe we should consider that. But remember the whole like, oh yeah, actually you guys are just a vocal minority. They went with it. They released the same thing publicly. And then of course the whole thing exploded. And then they finally went, oh yeah, maybe that's not the world's best idea. And so, in came the currently slightly reworked Research Bureau. But interestingly enough, World of Tanks Crew 2.0 came up. And it's almost the same thing as the original Naval Training Center. Like, maybe they just shuffled some of those people to another office, right? And they took the same ideas, quote unquote, they had over there. So that was really, really eye-opening to see that. To see how little, value we actually had when we were coming to discuss things, right? And then of course, the last and final thing, which is the screw-ups. Wargaming's repeated, like every so often screw-ups, which by the way are becoming much, much more frequent these days. But they used to screw up and then they would apologize and they say, yeah, we're really, really, really sorry about this, and we're promising that we're going to do better. Now, for those of you who have been around and who have seen this,
that's a good point. Broken promises. This is what's been going on from the side of Wargaming. They make representations, and then they renege. They just go back to this arrogance, indifference attitude to the contributors that have spent time helping to model this game for them to a greater player base and a greater use within the public population. And this arrogance and the continual focus on diminishing value to their supporters, whether it be community contributors or just the average Joe just getting into the game. And never underestimate how important the value quotient is in building trust with the general public to invest in what you have to offer. Go back to the video.
And I've heard this. Let me ask you the all-important question. Have you noticed an improvement? Wargaming's management seems, comically unwilling to, fix any of the real problems. Think about how many we've had. Think about how many disasters we've had. And has anything changed? Has anything fixed? Has anything gotten better? In fact, the problems seem to be now occurring at an ever faster pace. We had how many in the last 3 months? Good Lord. I jokingly made an image, this job has worked X number of days without a PR screw up, and now that's becoming like, this job has worked X number of hours. Maybe in the future it would be like talking about minutes, without a PR screw up. It is shocking. It is shocking how bad this has become. Never mind the fact that with every screw up now, there's just an excuse. It's almost like pre-made, ready to go, right? With Yukon, it was a communication mistake. With the whole Distant Voyages container, it was a translation error. As if all the native speakers, however 15 different languages you have native speakers for, they all simultaneously screwed up the translation. All the while, those containers just about broke how many consumer protection laws in the countries that you operate? There is some seriously messed up things in the company right now, Wargaming. And you guys need to start to address it. You need to start to examine these things in detail. Find out what's going on, because this is a much deeper problem. This is not just one community manager who accidentally said something. This is something cultural within the company. There are
Okay, another point here. I was making this is cultural within the company. This is a cultural thing that has taken place within the nation of Russia. For the last 4 or 5 years, they've been manipulating the United States population through the Midwest because of the same profile as they're used to back in Russia to manipulate so that they can keep autocrats and oligarchs in power. And it's rather unfortunate because you got a lot of great Russian people, but their hands are tied. A guy like Navalny, they friggin' poison. Luckily, he left and went to Germany and was able to get an antitoxin to live. Yeah, actually live. But the mistake he made was going back to think that he could make a difference, because what happened soon thereafter when he got back to Russia, put in jail. This is the deal. This is why you have to worry about Russia. And this is why you have to worry about the Trump and the Russia connection. And I know about the Trump and Russian connection. I personally witnessed how that came into play. You have not been able to prove it in the U.S., but if you look at every way, like the podium in Finland, Trump's response to Russia, furthermore, the Turkey fiasco with the Kurds, that's another Michael Flynn thing and a side deal so that Trump can benefit, and the Kurds got thrown under the bus. There's a lot going on here that you guys are not aware of. I just thought I'd throw that at you. Let's go back to the video.
people in management positions who are not doing the job that they're supposed to be doing, or maybe unable to do the jobs that they are doing. And this is actually something that you guys can look up. There is actually these ideas within management that, you know, if you keep promoting people when they don't really deserve those promotions, they will end up in places where they're not able to do those jobs. So enough is enough, wargaming. This has to stop. I find myself no longer able to be affiliated with your morally bankrupt behavior. A company that treats its player base like they're just a bunch of walking bank accounts that can be milked for money every single time that you guys want to sell something. And worst of all, you target the people who are vulnerable to very predatory practices. I hereby resign from the Community Contributors Program, effective immediately. Now, to my many other CCs who are walking out, I congratulate you all for having the courage to stand up for what is right, to stand up for yourselves, to stand up for the communities that you represent. The only thing I want to tell you is at the end of the day, your reputations and your integrity are the only things that you have going for you. That, at the end of the day, is what your community will recognize. That is all you have and all you're going to have. And always remember that the cautionary tale of one former North American community contributor who can never really get rid of that negative mark on their reputations be a reminder to do what is truly important and not to be a shill for a company. Thank you all. Take care. Remember to support the people who are standing up and stop giving wargaming your money. Take care.
Pour Amagi into 10 again. Pour Amagi into... Oh, there's only 3 battleships. Ah, poor Amagi. Poor Kansas. Poor Kansas in this game. Let alone in tier 10. God, why would you play this? Why would you play this? Kind of dumb question here, but do you miss your glasses? No. Personally find you better looking with your glasses on. No, why would I miss them though? The only thing that they create is like what do you call it? Grids that you have to look through. And you constantly have something here, and you have constantly something there. You have to make sure you never forget them. You can't see shit without them. If you want to go to the movies and somebody suggests 3D, you're like, I'm not going through double sets of glasses and I can't see without mine, so no. Area of view? Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. What do you think about the new program where Wargaming wants YouTubers to search for new Wales players affiliate or something? Are they losing players? Damn fucking straight they're losing players. They're losing far more than just players. So obvious. Why else do you think they would do that? And this is not designed... Oh, shit. This is not designed for existing CCs. We're not going to profit from this. We already brought in all the players, the communities, and... Oh, wow, I love your dispersion. Shit balls. Oh, wow, she just did nothing? I just did more to her in one volley than she did to me. We're both shooting AP. And she has twice the caliber of my guns. Exactly twice. This is not made for existing. Don't be fooled. This is not made for CCs. CCs can make a couple of bucks on this. This is designed for people that already have big established communities, like we do, or bigger and better, but don't play World of Warships. Because imagine if I now decide, oh gee, I don't know, I'm gonna start playing EVE Online. And suddenly thousands of people on my channel that, you know, value me and my opinions are like, oh, really? EVE Online. Look, he's having fun. Oh, I might actually give it a try. And then create an account and then start playing the game. But yeah, sure, okay. A lot of people actually knew about EVE Online even before. But it's designed for communities that don't play the game and don't know about the game when their favorite content creator suddenly decides that he's going to, you know, make content on it. And they're gonna give it a try. And then you basically make profit from new accounts. How much profit do you think me or Flamu or I don't know, the rest of us would have? Like, dude, people that watch us, they already have their own accounts. Or they're already done with the game. Like, we ain't gonna be profiting from this. And this is not designed for us. Wargaming never even told us about this. We just found out in the news article. That's how much they fucking cared. But, that's fine. You know, that's fine. That's fine. It's not like I expected anything out of Wargaming. Well, I mean, yeah, that's the biggest lie I've ever said. I expected a lot from Wargaming. Baltimore and Brindisi, huh? And now when I switch from AP to HE, do I actually get a good volley? Hilarious. Well, I need to take down Brindisi. Baltimore isn't gonna be the problem. Oh, like hell you will. Nah, she's already too angled. Oh? Oh, wow, actually. We just slapped her good. Holy shit. Sit down, man. Sit down, ma'am. Fuck. Balti's coming and I'm not done with this one yet. Oh, the angle! Oh, ow, 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 the angle. I didn't expect him to launch it all the way from then and there. Do I need to go back here and deal with these guys now, or can I go deal with Balti? There's nobody left to defend this side. I think I'm gonna have to double back. Probably not a good idea, though. How am I gonna beat Salem? How am I gonna beat Salem? $200k damage? Well, we got 133k and 2 kills already. This is already a good game for us. Oh, that was maybe a little bit too much on the gas. If I come sideways in front of that. Salem, he did, and he's got a radar. He can just radar at any point. Okay, so he's not pushing in just yet. I'll definitely prefer healing before. And there he goes. Oh, it's a Mogami. Huh. Okay. Salem's coming in as well. He's got 24k. Okay. Good morning, Zone. Hell of a game in 7 minutes. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Not bad at all.
Hello Flambat, are you ready for another Montana game? I am so close to having enough points to redeem it.
Yes, sir. I'm fucking ready. Cash it in, mother truckers. I'll show you how to play Montana. You will not hold me hostage with that fucking shit anymore. Hell no. Ooh, 10k baby, let's go. I'm afraid to say I'm just gonna go for the ram. Watch out, you might end up liking ship. Yeah, after 5 years, suddenly it's gonna happen. Because if it didn't happen so far, I'm sure it's gonna happen now. No. Well, I didn't exactly beat Mogami. He got shredded by my guys behind me. But I did ask for support, so I guess you could say we beat him. Yeah, that's all I needed to know. I just need to know where the eye was gonna be. If I could get a kill on the Iowa. Yeah, baby. Oh, baby, baby, let's go. Chat, are you ready? You know what to do. It's the Flamba Q time. It's the quack quack. The quackity quack. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. You got no chance, sonny boy. I am not letting you get away. No, no, no. No, no, no. Yeah. Got him. Got him. Ah. It's good to be back. Under my conditions. Let's see this guy. Yeah, there we go. GG's.
24 months of girly screams and funny voices. Bring it on for 36. Flamber mad, flamback, flambwim. Just gonna leave flamber landing, flambe.
Anything else? Thank you for 2 years, Bowart. Much appreciated. Welcome to Huns, my dude. Welcome to Huns. Right. Hell yeah, first game of the day.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? No Zoo for you here, and boy, you all had a lot on your mind. Yeah, wow. You all responded to yesterday's video, and you were more than willing to share the reasons that you're not coming back to this game. A little less on what it will take to get you back to the game, and a lot more on why you left and why you won't come back. But it's important because they're kind of the same thing. I mean, what it would take to get you back into the game is pretty much in line with the reasons you left. So what I'm going to do is kind of a mean tweets type of thing. And, I mean, for the most part, these aren't really mean, but I'm just going to go through some of the comments that were provided. And a lot of them are very similar, especially amongst veteran players that have been playing for 5 years and have left over the past year or two. And it really centers around mechanics and how it doesn't pay to be a skilled player anymore. And that's partly due to HE and the influx of HE, and just that it doesn't matter what you do, HE just counters everything. And that was the feeling of more than a few players. The problem is Wargaming's not going to care about this, let's face it. You know, we could have a 100% consensus on what is wrong with this game. 100% of players could say, hey, I don't like this aspect, and knowing Wargaming, they're not going to do anything about it. That's just the way they are, and it sucks, because a lot of these things are simple things that could be fixed fairly easily. Some of the other things, maybe not so much. A lot of these issues have been brewing for a very long time. But let's get into these, and, you know, you can make of it what you will, and maybe Wargaming's listening. Maybe. I don't know. It's possible. Stranger things have happened. But Robert says, I left because after being an alpha and super tester, it was evident that Wargaming broke all the promises they made at the beginning designed to maintain the game's integrity. Removing the elite status from so many of my commanders in January was the final straw for me, as it was clear Wargaming had no desire to see loyalty or loyal long-term players remain in the game, which is unfortunate. And Scott goes on to say, I totally agree. All promises were broken. They never listened to the player and fan base who pay money. They put out ships they think we want instead of ships the players would love to see. Then they totally screw up the CVs. The way they were to begin with was totally realistic instead of how they are now. They keep fixing things that aren't broke, like commander skills. Next, they bring in total BS ships like Shikishima and hybrid ships, then add subs. If you want subs, go play Cold Waters. The game is so broke, and F now, they need to scrap and rebuild like World of Tanks has, and has been doing for the past few years. Tanks, not totally fixed, but better than ships. Fix ships, and I'll come back. So that's a pretty damning indictment of everything right there, and there's a lot of responses here. Reverend Brian says this right here. So, yeah, a lot of anger right there. Sam says Submarines will bring him back to the game, so something a little more positive right there. He's just waiting for that, and he will come back to the game. And Michael says the same. Subs and putting the CV gameplay back to normal. One of those things is going to.
Okay, I just want to say one thing here now, too. Yeah, the Commander rework was such a friggin' farce, and it was a way just to take away value that the player base had built up by playing the game. It was purposely done to undermine the player that had created their own value by changing the game so dramatically that it just was a value deficient. Like, you know, these guys are morally bankrupt. There's no doubt about it. And I attribute that to probably oligarchs and a criminal element that's back in this game. And that sense of entitlement and arrogance that pervades from the game owners and filters down by forcing people that are good people. They've probably got some great employees, but they have to toe the company line. And he makes another good point as far as, Submarines and CVs, another friggin' fiasco. And it's just basically that they rely on data instead of data and its theorem instead of theorem applied to actual gameplay and what the result is and the feedback from that. And anytime you're seeing a situation where instead of increasing value to the player base, you're attriting that value, you're undermining trust in what the product. There's a trust factor there. And you're undermining that trust, Wargaming, and you just don't get it. So I just thought I'd add that there. I really think they should put submarines and CVs in a separate game battle mode, and they could use bots for the supporting cast on each side, because it really doesn't fit in the way the mechanics are in the game right now. It's all too gimmicky.
To happen. One is definitely not. Brian says something odder. I'm going to be hated for this. He knows ahead of time this is controversial. Short batteries that you get to use. That would be interesting. And we at one point had short batteries that, while we couldn't use them, they were there. And that was, God, I can't even remember the name of that game mode anymore. Bastion, was that it? Was it Bastion? I think so. That was one of the odder attempts of wargaming to make things interesting. Martin says, I've had time away now and again, but I'm not as active as I was, and I don't play competitive anymore. I've been tired by the constant overpowering of mythical Russian ships and drive for larger and larger caliber guns and gimmicks. Oh, and the push to get noobs up to tier 8. I think this boils down to feeling like the game has become too arcadey for me. The artwork is spectacular, the gameplay is shite. And that sentiment has been echoed a lot as well by many other players. They feel that the power creep is too strong, and people don't want paper ships, they want real ships. And I've been hammering that nail for ages, and Wargaming just seems to do their own thing. Again, you know, plenty of real ships still out there to be made. I know Wargaming thinks they're making things interesting by adding, you know, paper ships, but by doing that, they're giving them gimmicks that just aren't conducive for good gameplay. John says the same thing. Russian fantasy ships, HE spam, commanders, overhell. Don't quite get the overhell part, but actually hard to think of anything Wargaming has done right in the last 3 years. And another damning indictment right there. Rod just has simply given up. He says, whenever I voice the issues that bug me, I get shouted down by the game's sycophants. Perry says, I'm waiting for submarines. I'm traditionally a DD main, but with everything having radar and extended spotting and aircraft, etc., DD is not like it was back in the day. They used to be stealthy hunters that were hard to find. Now they're eternally spotted and can't get away. The new submarines will bring back that style to gameplay. Sure, I play a game here and there, but the lack of content changes, real changes, is non-existent. They cover a map in the snow and call it new. No, that's not new, that's a reskin. They take out the maps like the ice map with all the icebergs because it was too hard. Basically, every map looks almost exactly the same right now. Nothing has small islands that DDs can brawl and hide in the islands. Sure, 3 or 4, but I mean actual large numbers of islands to navigate. New lines really don't have any changes aside from the color and the flag they fly under. That's why I'm excited for subs. They're actually different. And he got a like on that too, so it seems like a fair amount of players are actually excited for submarines. I know a lot of players also are kind of looking at them with a little bit of trepidation. It'll be interesting to see submarines in the game, no doubt. We're going to get our taste of that soon. But for many players, it's appearing that submarines are a new flavor, and it's going to bring them back at least for a while, as I suspected. So Wargaming's probably going to get a little bump in players playing again once they come back in, and depending on what they do to the game, it's either going to sink the game or help the game to swim. Justin says real-time strategy style CVs like at launch, and subs more XP for AA build cruisers. Joseph Bell says, turn the clock back to 2015 and make it worth grinding again. Wargaming has made the game completely noob-friendly, so there's no learning curve, and grind. Turn destroyers into invisible submarines, remove all the nation-specific penetration stats, has more make-believe ships than real, almost. Turn CVs into a complete farce, and to top it off, virtually every new feature or addition is just something they took away previously. That's an interesting point right there. Bill says, I haven't left, but once submarines are in randoms, I'm gone. They're the last straw for me. To fix the game, keep subs out of randoms, get rid of 12-kilometer radar, 6-kilometer hydro, and armor-piercing rockets, and make half the battles a 2-tier spread instead of a 3-tier spread, and nerf every Russian ship, except probably DDs, so they're more in line with ships from the other nations. So, right there, another indictment of Russian ships. It appears that nobody likes Russian ships, except when they're playing Russian ships, because they were the ultimate in power creep. Curtis has something rather long here, and Curtis gives a very, very good synopsis of why he left and what's keeping him away. He says, I've been playing wargaming games since 2010, so he's a long-time wargaming player. Wargaming, this is the guy you need to listen to right here. He's been playing for, what, it's 2021 right now? He's been playing for 11 years. This guy has given you some loyalty. I think you deserve to listen to him. I've been playing wargaming games since 2010. Started beta testing World of Tanks. So there you have it right there. I'm not here to brag, but I literally have over 8,000 Tier 10 battles, which is more than most people have in battles total. But what I've seen in the last couple years is you are literally punished for making any kind of game-winning tactical move with the amount of HE spam and long-range camping in the back battleship play. Keep in mind, I play every class: destroyer, cruiser, battleship. He left out CVs, but is it really a class? My win rate will probably be forever stuck at 56%, which I might add is not bad. That's a pretty good win rate, especially if you're not divisioned up. I think I'm hovering at about 58%, down from 60 a couple years ago. But they made the game way too random now. There's no skill involved. I've had a full broadside Grosser Kurfürst to Yamato and have literally bounced or shattered rounds at 5 kilometers. I've had games in a GK where I've had over 380 secondary hits, but I can only pull a 140,000 damage game. There was a time where I could get any one of my tier 10s and pull a 200k or 300k damage game, no problem. Now I'm lucky if I get 100k. There's literally no incentive to be aggressive now. It's just camp, spam, torpedo spam, high explosive. You can't collect credits anymore. You can't collect flags anymore. They literally screwed ranked play right up. I used to be proud that I had some of the rare ships in the game, but now they're just throwing them left and right and center, giving away in containers. I guess I'm writing this rant after a bottle of red. So, you know what? In vino veritas, there's truth in the wine. I guess I'm writing this rant after a bottle of red, but there's no incentive for loyalty anymore. And maybe that's what it boils down to. I'm going to stop on that one, because that is a very, very important statement right there. There's no incentive for loyalty anymore. And there's not. For those of you that have been playing as long as Curtis, especially World of Warships, not just warships and tanks, do you feel there is loyalty to you? Do you feel you've been rewarded for putting in the games? Because right now I'm starting to feel like I'm not. I mean, granted, I didn't like the original CVs because I wasn't good at them. But as we go on, time after, time, as the years go on, I'm starting to hate the CV rework more and more. And, you know, at first I kind of like them, and you all probably remember the infamous CV Save World of Warships shill video that I made back when I was a CC. Being a little more honest, I only see CVs used now if there's missions that directly require them. Outside of that, they're kind of a mixed bag, and the skill of the players using them, not that good. It actually is more of a hinder to your team than not. So I know CVs always get thrown in here. A lot of players don't like them, don't like the way they are, but you know, we're several years removed now from the rework, and we'll never go back because that would be admitting defeat for World of Warships and wargaming. So we're stuck with what we have, but that's one reason. The HE spam, another one, and you know that's always been an issue, but it's hitting a break point now, I think. And Curtis is right. You know.
Hold on a second. I don't buy into the HE spam thing. And the reason being, you just have to adapt your play style. And that's really all it is. Just like the nerf to the Thunder, it's because people complaining about HE spam. The Thunder can't go in like a Kremlin. It's just not built for that kind of play style. So the HE spam is not a valid argument. It's part of the game. I've got no issue with it whatsoever. And you can adapt your play style to be able to circumvent the effect of the HE spam that you're complaining about. Instead of complaining, change your game style. And I really think the HE spam point here is just not a valid point to be made as far as the game. But that's a subjective opinion on my part. And in practice, I've applied it, and it works. So I don't buy into it. Just change your way, and you can actually do better, as well or better.
In the beginning, I guess loyalty to us by wargaming was the fact that if you were a skilled player and you made shrewd and wise moves, you'd be rewarded for it. But less and less it feels that way. There's no point pushing in battleships sometimes because you're just going to get just demolished by HE. I mean, I was playing ranked the other day in a Jean Bart, which I feel is a great ship, and I just got melted by a Friesland behind an island that I couldn't do anything about. I couldn't turn away or anything else, and it's a very frustrating feeling to just get whittled and fired down by HE, especially if you can't counter it. There's nothing you can do about it if you can't escape. And you know, maybe the point is that, well, you shouldn't have pushed too hard or too far, but with the changes to mechanics too, which hasn't been mentioned, you know, back in the day, if I was in a Montana or something else, I could completely blap a destroyer that wandered too close to me with AP, which you can't do anymore. So your loyalty isn't being rewarded. In fact, I think the exact opposite is happening. And I've said this numerous times. Wargaming doesn't care about you if you've already put your money in. They got your money out.
I have to totally agree with this point here. And this gets back to the loyalty from the player base has to be a trust factor from the ownership of the game. And this is where the real issue is. Loyalty tied into trust with the owners of the game.
Out of you. They got their $100 to $1,000 and sometimes more. Anything over $50 for them for a single player is a win. They've used you. They got their utility out of you, and they don't care about your opinion anymore. It's just try and grab more players and milk that $50 out of them and move on to the next. So it really doesn't pay to be a whale. It doesn't pay to sink a lot of money into the game. So again, until wargaming does start rewarding loyalty and fixing the mechanics that aren't going to be fixed and giving us what we want, like real ships, like that USS Johnston I want, or the USS New Jersey, or other things, it's not worth sinking money into this game for fake stuff. I mean, I'm not going to stop you from doing that. It's your prerogative and your money. But, you know, I think everything that I just said right now, everything that these players have stated, these vocal players, is accurate. And it is what's wrong with the game right now. So anyhow, keep funneling those opinions. I love reading them and seeing
Okay, folks, so we're going to take a smoke break, and then we will be right back. So a smoke break, then we're coming right back, folks. Hey, thanks, Frank.
Around these parts, you're going to find all kinds of interesting content, probably going to have to do with history or naval combat, science fiction.
To get through today, chaps, let's not faff about. Let's cut right to the chase here. I owe an apology to Flambas. In my video covering the announcement of the return of Mighty Mo, I said that calling it a scam was unwarranted. I was wrong. Flambas was absolutely bang on the money, though he probably didn't know it at the time. According to an article published yesterday on the news portal, we have been told that Missouri will appear in random bundles that can be obtained in exchange for doubloons. I don't know about you guys, but if it's Johan de Witt style, it's a scam. With no drop percentages published, it's gambling, a polite way of saying scam where the house always wins. iChase got a rap over the knuckles for calling the cruiser bundles exactly what they were, scam boxes. Missouri is no more coming back to the game any more than she did so previously in the Satan crates at Christmas time. I find it disgusting that Wargaming calls this our special event that commemorates the end of World War II. Oh really? I think you mean here's our chance to smack the sentimental American piñata for all the capitalist candy you can beat out of it. Sod off, Wargaming. We didn't expect you to give it away, but you won't even straight up sell it for the already unjustifiable price of like, what, $80? In 2019, Sub-Octavian said her removal wasn't about profits. In 2021, it's absolutely about nothing but profits. I'm going to go full Greta Thunberg and say, how dare you call this a celebration? I said before in my previous video, I couldn't believe Wargaming would give up its loot box carrot, its golden goose, and yet again I was proved right. And Sub-Octavian was right in 2019. It's not about profits, it's about profiteering. That's the stage we're at. That's the stage we've been at for a long time, for a while now. Let's be frank with each other. Rallyback Monkey on the forum says, I'll be both immensely disappointed if that's the only way to get Missouri and not be participating in any RNG-based buying scheme. Don't understand the point of nerfing the credit earnings for folks getting Missouri in 10.7 if the only way to get the ship was RNG crate drops. That will severely limit the number of people willing to whale their way through it. Mushroom Boogaloo on Reddit says similar with, I can't really follow the logic on this one. They're bringing back a ship that many wanted for its credit earning, but they're removing that, which will significantly decrease the number of people who are willing to get it. Now they're putting it in as a random drop, which is just going to turn even more people off of trying for it. Now those comments might be true, but throw into the mix people who will throw money at it, get what, a bunch of crap signals and expendable camos and give up? Ouija just earned bonus dollar, and these...
Okay, I'm going to make a point about the Missouri, or Missouri, if you're a local. I have the original Missouri. So with this new, bring the Missouri back, they're giving you this perpetual mission where you get 17% extra in credits. But here's the deal. If you have economy flags on the ship, the 17% does not apply to the economy flags, whereas the original ship, it did. So they're scamming you and devaluing everything you've built up to this point. And understand this is why there's a bad taste in people's mouths. And they're doing this unilaterally, and they're making out and representing it as something different. They even, when it was questioned, will the 17% apply to the overall credit of the ship in gameplay, including the flag incentives? Wargaming said yes. As it turns out, no, it's not. They lied. That's absolute blatant lying. And they've been doing this for years now and getting away with it. And because I guess they've been getting away with it, they have this entitlement that they can keep getting away with it and get more money into their pockets. So I thought I'd put that out there for you, give you a bit of an understanding, because I do have the original Missouri. Now they're bringing it back out. And to make up for it, they say you won't lose credits because we got this perpetual mission of 17%. Well, that's bullshit. Absolutely a crock of crap, and don't buy into it. And this is where you're playing a game and you want to build up your player base, you got to give them value. And when you give them value and you're honest with your player base and engage with them, you grow your business. Your profits will exponentially increase. Instead, you've got this history of broken promises and lying, which creates a higher churn rate. Obviously, this game has a churn rate to begin with, but they have magnified it even more. And this is not the type of data that they're considering or looking at. And that's why you never underestimate trust, value as a byproduct of, just value number one. And by giving that value, the byproduct is trust and loyalty. And they've diminished any positive that they may have had at some point. You can say, oh, the graphics are great, and the graphics are great. It's one game I enjoy playing, but I got to tell you, I got a real bad taste in my mouth, have for a while. Started closing my wallet well over a year ago because of that, and now it's closed permanently. And you're going to get new players in the game, and this is where the churn factor comes into play. So, if you're a business person, you have to look at the big picture, the whole picture, not just one segment of it. We'll go back to this video.
These players didn't even get the ship. Oh well, back to gambling at Christmas for Wargaming's next celebration. I'm going to sail close to the wind here, but this really has to be said. Community contributors, you need to take a good, long, hard look at yourselves. Are you happy with what you see? Are you really going to gloss over this and continue being complicit by association? We've seen iChase call this BS for what it is and earned himself a slap from the commissar. I think most people here watching can tell you when I hit my limit of shitfuckery, and I made sure Wargaming and the community will never forget it, and never have. Community managers, there are more jobs than you think there are out there, working for far better companies, believe me. I know firsthand, both in the US and in Russia. Get posting your CVs. You deserve better than this. Community contributors, if you're relying on Wargaming for giveaways and Twitch drops for viewers, you need to have a talk with your communities. I honestly believe they'll respect and support you if you show some backbone and say enough of this shit. I'm out. I'm not conning your players for you, Wargaming. As Flammo has proven, communities value your honest point of view, and you for being you, more than camos and loot boxes and far more than test ships that you can't talk about. When you fail to call the elephant in the room an elephant, you signal to the world you are bought and paid for, to be trusted no more, in your opinion, than any other company shill. If you can't bring yourself to tell Wargaming where to shove their exploitative, predative practice, I suggest you tell it how it is and leave it up to Wargaming to make yet another PR blunder by booting you from the program. What have you got to lose? If you think by continuing to support and promote the product that you're making a difference, helping the game and community, you're clearly gravely mistaken. With each day that passes on the road Wargaming are going down, the line drawn in the sand gets longer and longer, and those who have sold their souls become easier and easier to spot. Many of you might find these words uncomfortable, but it's no time to pussyfoot around. Have some self-respect. Stand up for your community. Actually make a difference, because it will. I promise you that. I also suspect that creators leaving the program en masse in protest is one of the few measures upper management will take notice of. I haven't even touched on the next wave of birthday tokens and gift containers coming in to celebrate the 6th birthday of World of Warships slated in the devlog for 10.8. The sewer of crap spewing from the pipeline in St. Petersburg shows no sign of slowing, and it's naive of us to expect otherwise. After all, very few people Wargaming give a hoot about are speaking up, and the cash is presumably flowing in thick and fast. I'm not suggesting people brigade community contributors, no way. I hope now more than ever, viewers and supporters of content creators express to these guys and girls that they don't need to sell out to be successful. Quite the opposite. Apologies, I've missed a load of other topics with this rant, like the second part of the Q&A and Discord, but in case you couldn't tell, this Missouri stunt absolutely disgusts me. I'm going to leave it there, chaps. We need to get ready for the next wave of fun coming our way this Thursday and Friday. See you in the next one. The predicted issues with Mighty Mo's credit earnings, rising upset and discontent rumbling in the CC program, and the addition of subs with frickin' laser beams. It's business as usual in World of Warships. Little White Mouse has issued a warning to existing owners of the USS Missouri. It reads, "Be warned, preliminary results show that 17% credit bonus from Missouri's mission does not stack with signals, camos, flags, etc. You may want to dismount any expendable camos or signals until this gets addressed. Note that I said addressed and not fixed. I'm not holding my breath here."
Okay, let's go back to this. This is the point I was bringing up. I've got the original Missouri. So this is how they're devaluing my position with this ship that I've had for some time. And they're doing it to a lot of long-term players that are loyal to the game. And this is what I mean by providing continual value, which brings trust, and the result of trust is loyalty. And they are eroding that factor big time, and this is a perfect example of it. I can tell you myself, my experience, the credits are not the same. They've represented that they add this 17%, that'll make it the same, and it's bullshit. It's a friggin' lie, and they're doing it openly. They must think everybody's stupid. Like, come on now. Give me a friggin' break.
Breath here. This cock-up is in direct contravention of the assurance issued by Shone at Wargaming that owners will earn not less than with the old built-in coefficient. So it appears Wargaming, having failed to properly implement the mission, will have to follow up on their promise of, if there will be issues, we will take care of it. From some napkin calculations by players on the forums, earnings are currently nerfed in the region of around 10%, but no doubt April Little White Mouse will deliver more definitive calculations, which she says she hopes to complete by the middle of next week. Well done to you chaps who submitted screenshots to her data thread. Are we surprised by any of this, gentlemen? No. With regards to the mission expiry time, our trusty friend at Ouija had this to say.
This is just a limitation to our system. So
yeah.
Pay this no mind.
Yep.
Are you ever going to remove that mission? If the case is to ever remove this mission, most likely we'll be replacing that with something else or adding it somewhere else so that you can still have it. The idea is that anybody that have it will remain it. I'm not going to say permanent, guys. You guys are way too good about, but you said...
Mayor Draco has clearly learned to be cautious after his previous gaffe, and I'd even go so far as to say not to trust his paymasters and colleagues, as evidenced by his refusal to state categorically that the mission will be permanent in some form or another. How hard was that to say? The 141-day expiry is due to the same limitation as we had with the legendary modules. The Missouri credit mission will remain permanent and freely available to existing owners, be it in this form or potentially another in the future. Ta-da! Following on from my Mighty Morons video, Flambas has given Twitch a little insight as to what it's currently like to be a member of the Warships Community Contributor Program.
This is what it means to be a CC for Wargaming. If you can't say what we like, please don't say anything at all. You're just spamming the feedback channel. That is exactly how we feel being CCs for this company. This is amazing. Feel free to be honest, but if you can't...
Well, warships, fuck you and your criminal element. Enough is enough. I'm going to say it again. Wargaming, fuck you and the criminal element. Enough is enough.
Let's say something nice, say nothing at all.
Straight from the horse's mouth. Numerous other CCs have spoken up and spoken out against the Missouri Random Bundle announcement, even with C-Raptor going so far as to ask his audience how they feel about his continued participation in the program in his latest Scuttlebutt video. If I may add some clarification to my call on CCs to reevaluate their association with wargaming, I wasn't suggesting creators stop playing the game. I perhaps didn't make that clear, but it's unsurprising to not only see that mentioned in tweets and videos, but also see former WoW streamers playing more and more other games, a trend I don't see reversing anytime soon if things continue the way they are. On the bright side, it has been brilliant to watch creators engage their viewers and enter into dialogue. And on that note, I'd like to thank you all for all of your comments. I honestly value your opinions as much as you may value mine. The one exception being the rather interesting fellow who tried to convince me that 89-knot torpedoes were no biggie when you're in a battleship because of rudder shift time and the fact Halland exists. That opinion I really did struggle with, especially as in reality we're talking about 93-knot torpedoes that are not only homing, but can bypass torpedo protection. Which brings us on to our next topic. Submarines, fitted with their new frickin' laser beams, have entered co-op battles. At the time of recording, Ranked hasn't yet kicked off, and I haven't been able to test them myself because the one-armed bandit said no. But Zoop has been quick to post his impressions. I highly recommend you check it out. Link is in the description. On the topic of feedback and submarines, you might recall that I mentioned in my We Do Not Want Them video that Wargaming should publish their community sentiment reports. Now, we both know that is unlikely to happen, so I've taken the liberty of starting the process of doing it for them, using their own YouTube channel and forums and Reddit. First off, I built quite a hilarious word cloud for the devblog announcement of sub changes on Reddit, which I found particularly amusing due to the sentences you can make out of it. And needless to say, it's not positive. However, as fun as word clouds are and useful for quick illustration, I went a step further and scraped the YouTube comments from Wargaming's recent 10.7 video announcement, as well as the responses to the news article on the forum using PassHub. I still need to fine-tune the process. If any of you data wizards out there can help me, I'd greatly appreciate it, so please email or message me on Discord. I'm hoping to improve my workflow, so once a week we can get a far clearer, fairer overview of the various talking points we cover. Using free AI sentiment analysis tool for my first attempts, I've concluded a neutral to mildly negative sentiment, though this is without filtering the noise of other topics like Missouri, etc. I'll stress these are early results, but if we assume that this is what Ouija is seeing and reporting, then hey, spreadsheet says only 3.6 Roentgens? Not great, not terrible. To wrap up, we had more hilarity in the form of the second part of the balance Q&A. In my opinion, Wargaming should just stop. When reading it, I found my eyes glazing over for numerous reasons, but mainly because the answers seemed bizarre and my bullshit meter was off the charts at other points. Years ago, the translated Q&As used to contain what appeared to be genuine answers and insight, but these days it feels more like BS and PR. Here's what Mr. Condescending Way had to say on the topic on stream.
When will you fix game balance? Yamamoto, that's a fantastic question. Which aspect of game balance would you like me to fix? General game balance, I think, is actually pretty alright.
Well, gents, that's about all I've got for you for now. Stay tuned, though, because we likely have more dev blogs and announcements to come today and tomorrow, and I'm sure there will be some rib ticklers for us all. Best wishes to you all. See you in the next one.
Okay, let's see. We also consider not only Zao really doesn't have the highest win rate. We're aware of this. However, a ship's win rate by itself is not enough to determine if there are problems with the ship. As an example, let's take a look at Hindenburg. If we look at the stats, her win rate is also below 50%, the same value as Zao's. Yet the ship is quite balanced in terms of combat efficiency and remains one of the most popular tier 10 cruisers. Probably because it has a lot of DPM after all the buffs it's gotten. Hello? Why are they comparing it to Hindenburg? Hindenburg has been buffed multiple times, Zao hasn't. They gave it the German HP pen buff. They gave it all this shit. How is this what? This is whataboutism. Are they literally going, but what about the Hindenburg? They're literally going, but what about the Hindenburg? This means, in terms of evaluating a ship's current state, other metrics should also be taken into account. Some other important things that should be factored in are metrics such as absolute and relative damage, number of destroyed ships, and related statistics, as well as broader considerations such as the different skill levels and gameplay styles of the players that actively use these specific ships. Subsequently, based on the analysis of all these metrics as one complex equation, we find that Zao is not in a position that would warrant any serious changes. Okay, if we take into account skill levels and gameplay styles, even in tournaments, tier 10 tournaments, when you're forced to pick one of each ship, because otherwise everyone just picks Petro or Des Moines all the time. So if you're forced to pick one specific ship in competitive, people pick every other ship except the Zao. The best players still won't play Zao. They'll pick every other tier 10 cruiser except Zao, because it doesn't bring anything to the table. So, absolute and relative damage? No, it doesn't have it. Like, the DPM isn't there. It doesn't bring any utility. It doesn't bring anything. Additionally, if you look at the stats from the past couple of updates, Zao's popularity is in a fairly decent position. Because everyone has the fucking ship. It's been since the start. And, as obvious as it sounds, most players are unlikely to willingly play a bad ship. Most people probably aren't even aware of what kind of state the Zao is in. And some people just play it because they love the old Zao dispersion. Popularity itself is not the main indicator that a ship is in an okay balanced position. There are other more important metrics as mentioned above. Yeah, Zao fails at all of them. But we still need to consider it when analyzing the ship's current condition. Perhaps the perception that Zao is a weak ship is a result of her win rate being taken at face value alongside her playstyle. Yes, and the fact that anyone who's actually good at the game knows that it's not a good ship. The ship, for the most part, has highly pronounced strengths. A great deal of them at that. Powerful artillery, with comfortable flat top ballistics and high accuracy. Powerful artillery with comfortable flat top ballistics and high accuracy. What? The AP pen doesn't stand out in any way. The AP performance is middle of the pack. It doesn't have any improved pen angles. It doesn't have short fuse or anything on the AP. The DPM on it is certainly not stand out in any way. The only thing that makes the gun stand out is that it has the DD accuracy on them. They're accurate. Like, hello? Like, even comparing them, let's compared to some old chips, DPM wise, HE DPM wise, this is Zao, 179k. Powerful artillery. I mean, they literally added the Nevsky, and Nevsky can slot reload mod much better. Compared to the actual DPM monsters, it doesn't even come close. Powerful artillery? Even Hindenburg is better HE DPM, but Hindenburg also has much better HE pen, because German HE penetration. I don't understand. And AP DPM, once again, powerful artillery? Hello? It's lower middle of the pack across the board. It's lower middle of the pack across the board. Where's the... And if we look at... If you look at the actual penetration values of the thing, let's see, Zao. Let's add someone who actually has good pen, the Henry. We can add some. We can add the Soviet cruiser in here just for the shits. Actually, we can add both. We can even add the light cruiser because the light cruiser basically has the same pen as the Zao. But we can add the Petra as well, just to give some scale. What else do we add? Who else is... Oh, Hindenburg. Hindenburg pen isn't that good. This is why I find it hilarious, by the way, when people go, oh my god, Flolo, Ilbing has almost Hindenburg penetration. Whoa, almost Hindenburg penetration? That's amazing. Wow. Like, Hindenburg penetration isn't it exactly. But like, saying that this guy here, where the fuck did he go? Where's Zao? Here. Saying that this guy here has powerful ballistics, powerful armament. Based on what? What's the basis for this armament being powerful? Like, I could see it on the Henry. That's powerful AP pen. Or I could see it on Petro. That's ridiculous AP pen. But this guy here, who's competing with Soviet cruiser Nevsky, very light cruiser by the way, powerful. Powerful, once again, not the word I would use to describe this ship. Powerful artillery. Hard disagree. Also the one of the few that doesn't have any improved pen angles, no improved pen view, and no improved HE pen or anything. High accuracy. Flat top ballistics high accuracy, I can agree on that, but it suffers from no range. Strong long-range torpedoes. Strong long-range torpedoes. I mean, they hit hard, but the firing angles are terrible, which makes them some of the least useful torpedoes in any sort of brawling action. Like, if you have to push in and you have to brawl someone, basically anyone else has, any other cruiser is better torps than the Zao. Because Zao has to go full broadside past the ship before you can torpedo. So, strong... Venezia has even longer range torpedoes. Like, and good maneuverability. Does it have good maneuverability? Does it actually have good maneuverability? That sounds like... I'm not sure about that. What's the maneuverability on it? 840 meter turning circle. Well, Soviet cruisers are probably worse. They're worse. That's the same as Henry. Hindenburg has a better turning circle. I don't remember anyone ever telling me that, wow, Hindenburg has such good maneuverability. I mean, it's got good rudder shift and the speed is good. So, I don't know. I'd say decent maneuverability. I'm not sure if good maneuverability. Oh, this is running rudder shift mode. Oh, whoa. Oh, okay. What the fuck? What is this meme build I've been running? I think that was when we were testing some AA things. But the rudder shift is good. I mean, it's not... Yeah, it's actually... I would say it's good. Yeah, it's a good rudder shift. The turning circle is not good. It's actually pretty terrible. But the speed is good. So, average? I don't know. Average? Good maneuverability is a bit... But then again, they call it ballistics, so artillery also good. One of the best concealments for her tier and type. That I can agree with. For a heavy cruiser, it's stealthy. But the problem is they have CVs in the game, which don't give a shit about your concealment. However, effective use of her strengths is impossible with additionally taking her weaknesses into account, which are also notable. Not the best armor. Well, that's a change from last time's good armor. Good music, by the way. A vulnerable citadel, short firing range, low number of hit points, and obtuse angles of rotation of main battery guns, poor firing angles. As such, getting more comfortable playing towards his strengths while being aware of her weaknesses may prove more difficult when compared to cruisers with simpler gameplay, often demanding better communication with allies as well. What? Often demanding better communication with allies as well. I mean, I'm not sure this company should ever talk about communication. Like, but communication with, like, do they live, like, what? Do I need my allies to make up for my weaknesses in this ship? Have you seen the average random battle player? And even in competitive, where the best of the best play and they're sitting on voice comms with each other, constantly talking, even they won't play the Zao. And that's the best communication you could possibly ask for in World of Warships. So clearly, good communication is not enough to make up for these weaknesses. Clearly. Considering all these things, we cannot make balance changes based only on perception of the ship, especially considering that the ship is in the norms in terms of different combat effectiveness metrics. Therefore, we are not planning any balance.
Yeah, right, Wargaming. What another crack of crap. The friggin' Thunderer, because people don't like the AG spam, they nerfed the ship multiple times. I'm going to repeat this. I call this out. It's absolute bullshit. Perfect example is the Thunderer got nerfed a couple times, and that's because people can't. They want it easy, so they can't deal with the HE spam, you know. And ships playing back, you know. The real friggin' battle. Your battleships do not push in unless it's late in the battle. You know. Let's talk about reality here. Friggin' crap.
Norm, which may have a negative impact on the in-game balance. However, as there was a lot of feedback on Zao, we're monitoring the situation with the ship and the future look blah blah blah. Oh no! It may lead to an increase in our efficiency and have a negative impact on in-game balance. What am I listening to? No, please no, please no. Imagine having a negative impact. Imagine having a negative impact on game balance. Surely not. Wargaming would never allow such a thing. Like that time when there was no ship bans in King of the Sea and people got to choose whatever ship they wanted. Please no. Please don't allow a ship to overperform. That would be terrible. That would truly be tragic if a ship was allowed to overperform. That would never happen in our glorious game. Wonder why they implemented ship bans in King of the Sea at some point. Surely it wasn't because there were some balance issues in the game. No. Of course not. Of course not. Look at all these Zaos in here, man. So many Zaos. Truly. Zao gets crucified in the name of balance, but CVs are fine. Yeah, how the fuck does that work? How does that work? I love how there's some sort of like holy defenders of game balance when it comes to Zao, but then when it's Petro, CVs like straight up sleeping on everything. But when it comes to Zao, no. What if the Zao was a bit too good? Oh no, that would be too much, man. Can't allow that to happen. Okay. After the recent devlog of the new German BBs, you said that those ships are best suited for brawling and short-range combat. Yep, they did. But it's pretty evident that your whole concept of brawling is completely out of the window, since the Tier 10, the best of the best, has the lowest HP pool and the thinnest armor of all researchable Tier 10 BBs, and it's pretty clear that the secondaries of those ships are useless. Most of the 105mm, they will only pen 26mm of armor, even with the new German special HE pen. So my question is, why releasing a completely new line with questionable stats instead of buffing the already existing German BBs that should already be suited for brawling, right? They're releasing the same ship again. Please note, the answer was edited. We sincerely apologize for providing wrong information in the answer initially. There was a... There was a miscommunication during the answer preparation. That's crazy though, because I think I remember that. Wait, don't I remember something? Don't I remember? I feel like I remember. I think I remember something specific here. Actually, in the case of questions feedback related to balance of ship, there is no communication gap. Yes, man, that actually aged like milk. Oh my god, actually aged like fucking milk. There was a miscommunication during answer preparation. I thought those things didn't exist in this concept. That's crazy, man. Oh my lord. Funny how that works. We indeed mentioned close range during the initial announcement in the devlog. However, this was overall an attempt to share the concept of the branch with you, which can be changed during testing. Seriously, how long is this? Am I gonna be on some list because of this? Jesus. This one is share the concept of the branch with you, which can be changed during testing. Unfortunately, no matter how much we wanted to be sure of the effectiveness of the new branch at the announcement stage, it is impossible without testing of all the ships in live conditions. Even considering these ships in the context of your question, it's hard to draw any conclusions based on individual characteristics. For example, consider similar characteristics on other ships. A ship's bow is certainly important, but it doesn't completely determine the armor and overall tankiness of the ship. Let's take Petropavlos as an example. She has 25mm plating on the bow. Alpha kill, thank you for the 28 points. Not a great deal in the grand scheme of things, but is still considered to be an excellent brawler. Excellent brawler. Excellent brawler. What? It's more the fact that it sits nose in and can't die. This is largely due to the bow armor belt. What? That's the dumbest shit I've ever seen. No, it's not. Bow armor belt helps, sure, but there's so many other things. Jesus, let me turn it down. But there's so much else. There's the fact that the ship is incredibly stealthy. You can barely outspot it because it can almost stealth radar. It has hydro, so you can't torpedo it. It's got 50mm upper belt and deck armor, so it's basically invulnerable to most forms of damage. The ship is a goddamn submarine. It's so low in the water, and it has basically no superstructure at all to farm. Largely due to the bow armor and the belt. What you think if you suddenly give an icebreaker to the Zao, it's gonna do the same thing as a Petro? What? Why? What the fuck? That's so dumb. Is Zao gonna be a good brawler if we give it an icebreaker? Is that how it works in Wargaming World? Oh my god. If you look at the new Tier 10 German BB Schlieffen, she may not have the thickest plating, but she, like Petro, also has a bow armor belt. In fact, all of the newer German battleships have it. Therefore, we'll believe this feature will also help German battleships perform in close quarters combat. But this thing has a huge superstructure that can be farmed. It burns for 60 seconds, something Petro doesn't. It doesn't have any way of outspotting ships the same way Petro, you can like radar them or something. Like, it's going to be much clumsier. It's going to be bigger in every way. Easier to hit. What is this logic? What is that logic? As for
No logic with wargaming. No logic with wargaming whatsoever. None whatsoever. Russian friggin' criminals. Just a bunch of friggin' crooks. Now I'm gonna take a break. I may play a game. I don't know. I'm gonna think about it. So we will be back. But I may play a game of Company of Heroes instead. We'll see. Okay, we're gonna go into battle in the Tier 10 Russian battleship, the Kremlin. Check the map out. Let's see what's going on here. Check this maps out. Maps checking out. Okay, so we're gonna go A. We're on the A side here.
Бой начинается.
Any questions, just throw it in chat there, folks. Any comments, just throw it in chat, please. You got any other team? Vermont, Ohio, Conqueror, Curfus, Yamato. Got some heavy hitters. Long range, too. Unfortunately, neither the Elbing or the Cabras are good capping DDs. Okay, they got the A cap. Now, if the Elbing and the oh, it's a Minotaur. Cabras left. Too bad. Too friggin' bad. Come on, Napoli, show yourself again.
Союзники, поддержите огнем по указанной цели.
Our Elbing's dead already. Oy vey. Oy vey. Come on, light up that friggin' Napoli. Go, lads.
Команда противника получила преимущество. Союзники, сфокусировать огонь на цели. Отступаем. Союзники, прекратить огонь по своим. Это последнее предупреждение. Союзники, передаю координаты важной цели.
Oh, frig those curving like that. I didn't think it was a friggin' Stan Mikita hockey stick, for Pete's sake.
Желаю всем удачи. Благодарю.
We're gonna lose some points. Lost some points, got no choice. Team collapsed like a deck of cards. Oh, this guy in the Khabarov. Guy that's friggin' complaining all the time. He had lots of cover, didn't go in, backed off, went somewhere else. What do you expect? Dope, you should have worked with the Elbing and protected him. Unbelievable. Oh, I may have got my naval battle, just barely. No. See what the, what was the score? don't know if I did or not. Let's check it out. I don't think so. There's barely enough time to get unwound, that's why. No, I didn't get it. Still at 80k. Friggin' unbelievable. Unfriggin' believable. Let's try one more game and see what happens. Friggin' 2 games in a row with the Kremlin. Same friggin' BS. Guys just died too quick. Can't win the game. You got the YOLOers that go in. Push, push, push. They don't get it. They don't get it, I say. I tell you, they do not get it. Not 2 DDs on this game. Check the map. Hopefully we can get it this time. Okay, we're going to have to go A on this side.
Бой начинается. Мы в деле. Принято. Давайте просто сделаем это. Сконцентрировать огонь на указанной цели.
Friggin' ricochet, can you believe it?
Внимание, передаю координаты цели. Сконцентрировать огонь на указанной цели. Есть пробитие. Пожарная тревога. Меткое попадание. тревога. Торпеды по левым борту. Неполадки устранены. Большая пробоина. Быстро набираем воду.
Come on. Not that fast a ship, man.
Пожарная тревога. Неполадки устранены. Пожарная тревога.
That wasn't too bad. At least I got my quota. That's what I wanted. Too bad my guys were just friggin' hiding. We could have done a lot of friggin' better. At that sea cap, I would have had that cap. Very interesting. Okay, hopefully these torps. Bismarck would have helped a great deal. The Ohio, ooh, took a few torps, a lot of torps. Too bad. That's where one of those cruisers, either the Cleveland or the Minotaur, should have been with that Ohio. It's too bad. Rather unfortunate. Might friggin' end up losing this game too, just because of stupidity again. Cleveland's gonna be toast. Oh, he dodged those torps. Lucky him. The Miker can take him out, though. If he can get a lucky hit on him, he can take him out. Would be beautiful. Nice. We got the game. We got it, baby. Bismarck, just friggin' ram. Oh, he's gonna be toast. He's gonna be toast.
Сфокусировать огонь на вражеском корабле.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry, guys.
Назад! Союзник, требуется твоя поддержка. Всем захватить отмеченную точку.
We definitely have this game. D. This Roma's going to be toast soon. Definitely got the win. Okay, we're going to firm up this game really soon. We just need to get the A cap next, which we're getting right now.
Наша команда близка к победе.
Why are they having such a hard time with the A cap? Yeah.
Вот так мы всегда.
Okay, definitely got what I needed that game, I'm sure. Let's double check. And naval battles here. Look at the naval battles. Did we get what we wanted? I think we did. Yipperdoodle. Okay, what are we going to play next, lads? Let's go French cruiser. Gonna take a break and then we're gonna go French cruiser, I think. So break time. Then French cruiser. Whoopsie. What's going on here? Okay, so we're going to take a break, come back, and then play the Henri French Tier 10 cruiser next. Okay, folks, we're going to go and battle in the André. Tier 10 French cruiser. Load her up. Load them up. Load them up. Okay. Okay. The French, the André. Okay. What flags? Come on. What flags can we put on her? Huh. Okay, going into battle. Heading her in. Heading her in, buds. Okay, cycling into the battle queue now. And let's see what happens, folks. Let's see what happens, monsieur. Z. Henry. Tier 10 French cruiser. Look at the map. 4 friggin' EDZ side. We're gonna go A on this side. Let our team know.
Action stations.
It's not a bad little ship, but they nerfed this one too. Friggin' senseless friggin' nerfs. The Petropavlovsk gets no nerfs. Like, come on now. Friggin' guys are friggin' Russian bias like you wouldn't believe. It's screwing around with Russian, the Russians been screwing around with friggin' American elections. They screw around with your head in this game with Russian bias. Friggin' BS. Absolutely nuts. Where's friggin' Yamato going? Holy crap. You guys gonna run into one another? Oh yeah.
Enemy destroyer detected. Enemy cruiser detected. Engine boost activated. Enemy battleship sighted.
Nice. I'll take it, thank you. Well, let's light them up, folks. Nobody's lighting them up. Our friggin' DD's lighting them up.
Enemy destroyer sighted. Torpedoes to port.
Come on, let's light them up, Alan. Where are you? Come on, where you backing off?
Enemy cruiser detected.
How the frig did he manage that? Ah, wrong friggin' button. Oh well.
Enemy cruiser sighted.
Friggin' target lock doing. Frig is it with this friggin' target lock? BS, man. Yamato's in where he shouldn't be.
Engine boost deactivated.
Come on. How's this friggin' guy got a free pass?
Enemy battleship detected. Torpedoes, direct front. Torpedoes, dead ahead. Enemy destroyer detected.
Well done, lads.
Everyone. battleship sighted. Enemy cruiser detected. Torpedoes to port. Engine boost activated. Enemy battleship sighted. Torpedoes, direct front. Pull below the waterline. We're flooding quickly.
Come on. How'd that friggin' happen? How did he get me and I didn't get him? Like, unbelievable. Unfriggin' believable. How the frig did that happen again? Holy crap. Why are we losing the B cap? Come on. What's that friggin' BB doing? Friggin' Kremlin doing? Why isn't he pushing against that curve first? Doesn't make sense. Holy crap. Some guys just don't get it. What are you going to do? And Howland's ready to go down if somebody can get a hit on him. There we go. Got him.
Our team has taken the lead.
Okay, finally. Shore up the C cap now. Get that Napoli. He's ready to die. Good job. Okay. All we need is the D cap. Come on, Kerfers, Kremlin, you're way out of position, pal. Should have been moving down towards D a long time ago. Or that Yamato. Just friggin' head on right to him. Come on, Austin, just burn up that friggin' curve for us, pal. Might be out of range of the Austin's guns. They're very limited, maybe only 16 kilometers or so. I don't have the ship, so I'm not exactly sure. Friggin' Yammy. Would be nice if this guy could friggin' hit her first, man. Okay, so now the Austin's got a shot on him. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we should have the win now. Come on, guys. Get that last cap. Ram the Yammy there, Kremlin. No, may be over before he got a chance to ram it. Okay, definitely got my mission there, for sure. Okay, folks, listen, thanks for watching. Understanding COVID-19 is real, it's not a hoax. Get a vaccination, seek a medical opinion, get a second opinion. Don't take any chances. I've been vaccinated for many months now. It really does work, believe it or not. But some people, you need to get a medical opinion depending on your health. Practice social distancing and wear masks. Masks do work. They've been wearing healthcare workers in the hospital industry, in the healthcare industry and hospitals, been wearing masks for many decades, and no one's died from wearing a mask. It will help protect you, so don't buy into that crap. There's different levels of protection with masks. You got the K95, KN95s. You've got the regular ones that you can get that provide a fair amount of coverage. So be smart. Take care of your health. It's priceless. And anybody that says, well, if God meant me, he'll protect me. If not, I was meant to. That's friggin' bullshit. They came up with the vaccine. The same people that believe in God made them a vaccine, and it was made there to help protect you. So use a little common sense instead of relying on friggin' ignorance and stupidity, especially from these GOP governors in Florida and Texas. Friggin' guys are morons. Absolute morons. Friggin' Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis. Friggin' gross negligence, border on genocide, just utter stupidity.